Can I call you Mike? Or
Please, yeah.
Mike, how long have you been with the police department for?
I've been a police officer for 23 years.
I'm going to ask you that goofy cop question. Why'd you become a cop?
I became a cop because I just wanted a job that was outside of an office cubicle, and I wanted to interact with people. And it sounds so, it's the very standard answer, but it's true. I wanted to help.
23 years into this?
Yes.
You feel like you've done some good?
Yes, I do.
Let's talk about training before all this. You guys, I mean, you can train for an active shooter situation, and then you go to an active shooter situation, it's probably a little bit different.
I would agree. I think the training helped and provided a foundation, but ultimately there are some things that you are just not, training cannot prepare you for. Yes.
This was one of those nights?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
If I ask you about that, and I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail about what happened to you that night, but I do want to ask you about when you first show up, is there a moment of like, this is different, this is serious, this is a lot of victims? Is there a moment that sort of hits you at that point?
Yes, I recall coming into the lot and seeing a wounded man, and it looked like he was going to be fine, that he was stable. A road crew was taking care of him. And I remember a conscious thought, keep moving, because I was hearing radio traffic indicating that shooting was still going on. I encountered a second party outside the theater, hit a little more severely with people telling me, help, help, and making a conscious decision to rip past their grasp and keep going. And then I went into the theater with another officer, and that's when the realization hit me. This is horrid.
Are you thinking that at that moment, or are you just going into police officer mode and trying to detach yourself from the situation that you're sort of witnessing? Because I think for the average person, it's really sort of difficult to contemplate just how difficult that might be.
When I went into the door of the theater, I thought, here comes the gunfight. And when I was at those first few seconds, I realized, oh, the gunfight's over, and I need to switch gears and deal with some very ugly things. You
Still think about that day, I bet, every day.
Yes, I do.
Is it hard to shake? Or do you want to shake?
I'm not sure I want to shake it. I think that I have come to a point with it where it is a passing thought. It was a place. To me, it has become a time rather than a place. And it is something you think about every day. Oh yeah, we were there, we did that. Yes.
What do you think now, 5 years later, then?
Not much differently. Just that we were there, we did those things, and I've struck a balance between thinking about it every day and moving on with my life.
Can you do that?
Can you do that? Yes, I think you can. I think you need some help, though, and I have sought out that help, and I've also realized how this can affect families and marriages.
There's this idea that you go to an assignment, and this is 5 years ago, and because you guys haven't talked a lot about this publicly, you've talked about it with friends and family, but you have, and counselors, but you haven't been able to talk about this publicly, that maybe it's forgotten, that you guys have just, well, they've moved on. Like, you can't move on from that.
You cannot move on from that, no. No. It will always be a part of you, for better, for worse. And I'm trying to look at the for better aspect of it.
But I bet there's been a lot of for worse, too.
There has, certainly.
How difficult is it to talk about this?
It's difficult. It's taking some self-control for me to answer intelligibly and not blubbery.
That wasn't easy, particularly. I bet that was really hard early on.
Early on, in the days after, it was relatively easy, and I would say a month later, I think the shock was wearing off, and it did become more difficult to relate what we saw and what happened.
I can see it on your face. This is hard to talk about.
Yeah.
What should we know?
If it makes sense, I would call that what we saw and did in there a horrible privilege. It was a horrible event, but it was a privilege to serve with men and women of that caliber, and it was horrific, but it was a privilege to be able to help and get it done so effectively.
Think of the guys that were here and think of the other guys that aren't here. So, I mean, I hate to use a cliche in a moment like this, but it's a well-oiled machine. I mean, you guys are kind of doing what you do. How proud are you?
I'm really proud of us, and it was a well-oiled machine, and I'm going to come out and say it. It was by God's grace that it was a well-oiled machine.
What do you mean by that?
I know that God moved in us to work that well together and that quickly and that effectively together. Yes, we had trained for a active shooter event. We had not fully trained for a mass casualty event. We had not trained for what to do when someone's intestines were spilled out. We had not trained for that.
So what do you do?
You pick them up and you put them back in and you run like hell with them. And I saw that happen, and that female officer is not here to interview about that, but I'm immensely proud to serve with people capable of doing those kind of things.
What are you going to take away from that night besides the negative?
There is some positive to take away. I think that it has at turns made me a kinder, more patient and gentle man, and it has at turns helped me regain some priorities in my life, what is really important.
What questions should we ask of your partners? What do we need to make sure that we make this story about when we're putting this together?
I'm not sure. I don't know. Like I said earlier, it was pretty emotional for me to recall and remember what these guys were doing.
You were so caught up in that moment that night that it sounds like it took many more hours for you to realize just how bloodied you were.
Yes. Later on in the night, myself and Jimmy Waselko were pulled aside and taken to a room, and I looked at Jimmy, and just the look on his face, he looked shell-shocked, and I looked down at Jimmy's uniform, and it was covered in dried blood. His pants looked like cardboard, and then I had the realization that I looked at my own shirt, and my own shirt looked similarly.
You didn't see it until then?
I did not see it until then, no.
Why not?
No. Just operating in pure survival adrenaline mode would be my best answer to that.
You had one of the worst tasks that night.
I did.
How do you deal with that?
Well, I think for a while that I didn't. I think that I became emotionally detached, and as Lieutenant Redfern discussed earlier, not having a full range of emotions when other bad things would happen to people. And then later on, the emotions did start to hit. There was a period of time where it became kind of like a PTSD experience to carry my daughter upstairs to bed. And like I say, I think it comes back to it was a horrible privilege. Sergeant Johnsgard and Sergeant Butler were aware that Veronica had expired. I was not fully aware of that when they called me over to carry her out. My hands were so tingly and shaky from adrenaline, I could not find her pulse. And Sergeant Johnsgard just said, "Stop it, get her out of here." And I ran out with her, and when I got into the parking lot, I realized that she had expired. And I have since come to view that as a horrible privilege, and I have since been able to speak with her parents regarding that, and it was important to me that they knew that that she was taken out by Daddy, and that I have a daughter that age, and I'm very cognizant of what was lost.
How many kids do you have?
6.
What are their ages?
No. Kind of have a used car lot. I've got one of everything. I've got 23 down to 3, and I've got 3 girls and 3 boys.
You're a different father now, I bet. I mean,
yes, yeah.
It's going to shake. It's going to. You're just going to be a different person.
Overprotective. At turns, more gentle, more patient. Yes.
You never want to deal with this again.
I do not. Longest 20 minutes of my life.
You guys saved lives that night.
Yes.
Not everything's going to go perfectly.
No.
But there was some good that was done that night, for as hard as it was.
Certainly.
What should be known 5 years after? 5 years after what the Aurora Police Department did that night, what needs to be known? What should be known?
I would say that what I would like people to know, that it was an immediate 100% effort. And it was just an immediate gelling of personalities and ideas and action, and it worked, is what I would like people to know. I credit sergeants and lieutenants and officers for having the wherewithal to know we got to go now. Having the wherewithal to pick up those intestines, put them in, and go.
Your car was at university?
Yes.
Did you transport?
I did.
How many?
I transported 2.
Was Veronica one of them?
No.
So in that picture of the 3 cop cars in University Hospital, is yours one of those?
Yes.
Do you know which one?
I do. Yeah.
Which one?
It's the very old Crown Vic, and yes, I transported people to. When I got across the lot with Veronica, and I could tell that she was probably gone, I somehow found an ambulance all by itself, and they had their pram out. I laid her down on the pram, and I could tell by the paramedics' faces it was too late. I was operating on autopilot. After I put Veronica down, I ran back to the theater, and firefighters stopped me and said, "Do you have a car?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Bring the car up." And I said, "Okay." And they put Mike White in the car, and the firefighter said to me very quietly, "You need to go like hell. You need to get there fast." And then they slid this young lady, Michaela, in the back seat, and I could tell she had taken a grazing round across her lip, and Mike had been shot in the chest, and I took the firefighter literally. I went like hell because I knew that being hit in the chest was pretty serious.
Where'd you go?
I went to university.
That's right. So did you both times go to university? Or you only
I made one trip
One trip.
with two people.
That's
yeah.
right. Take 225?
Yes.
Went pretty fast, I bet.
It went pretty fast. I had a very old police car nearing the end of its service life, and it sounded like it was shaking itself apart.
But you got there.
I got there.